and yelling, screaming, cussing.
Hello and welcome to the Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Riche. I am the founder of the Tukes and Touchdowns channel here on the U of the Tube, as well as multiple other social media platforms. We got DZ over that way. I never know which way to point because it's all mirrored and all that other nonsense, but either way, he's beside me. See, we've made this super easy on Rebel. The only thing he needs to do is just point up, and he's good.
Sir.
Yeah, he's good. All right. DZ, you can catch him on his channel there, which is down below in the description on Bolt Up with DZ. Go ahead and give his channel a subscribe and a thumbs up. If you are not watching on Tukes and Touchdowns Network, if you could jump on over here and give us a sub, we would greatly appreciate it. That includes Raiders fans because, you know, they say keep your enemies closer. And I am certainly, I would qualify in that particular category. So I will take it. You go down below here, we got Raiders Rebel representing his Las Vegas Raiders here on the show.
What's good? What's good?
Which, by the way,
in person in Houston to watch his team.
He was, and we will get into that in terms of what that was like, because you got yourself a game. And so nice work. I think it was you and your family, right?
Yeah, me and my son, and then ex-girlfriend kind of thing.
Yep. Well, I'm glad that all worked out. I'm glad you got to, you know, get all that sorted. You got everyone to the game, and it was a good game, man. That was a solid game for your team.
It was a blast.
Yeah. So we'll get right into it. But on today's show, we are going to get into kind of what everyone's really chomping at the bit for, if we're going to be honest, and that is where we think our team's 53-man rosters will end up. We'll just do a quick little recap of last week's game just for the benefit of everyone involved, because, you know, a lot of folks like coming here because you kind of get some mixed takes of each other's teams and that sort of stuff, and it really does make for a much more interesting recap show, getting all those different perspectives. So we'll go quickly into each of our games very briefly, and then we will jump into, frankly, I think what we're all most interested in is kind of start to look ahead to see what our teams are going to look like long term for the season. DZ, let's start with you. Last week's game, how'd that go?
Not good. Not good. It was complete opposite of what the first week was against the Texans, and complete opposite from the joint practice with the Niners.
Yep.
It was kind of bizarre. I mean, first of all, the game for me started at 10 p.m. Eastern, so it was already on late. The first offense, they took the field and went 3 and out. I think there was like one completion, one run to the right with Amarian. I think he got like negative yards. So it was like 3 and out. Justin came off the field and some other guys, and I think they kept in like the quote-unquote starting offensive line for, I wanted to say, up to 9 or 10 snaps, something like that, variations of it. And it was sloppy. You could tell that this scheme is new to even the vets they brought over. You know, both Njoku and Kohler were not on the same page in the blocking. You know, they both came from the AFC North, completely different schemes as well from their teams that they came from. No running game whatsoever throughout the game. And I'll be honest, like, I have notes here, but I was telling Raiders Rebel in the green room before we came on, I was like, I turned this game off midway through the third quarter, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not watching this trash. I was like, I'm like, and I didn't even, I have the NFL Plus, and I could rewatch it. I was like, nope, not even doing that. I don't want to even stomach this crap. It was so bad. And
Man.
they admitted it was bad. I mean, like our projected right starting guard through the 9 snaps looked like absolute ass. I heard people saying he was like trying to do a new technique or whatever, like a jump cut, as a guard or something, and it just looked bad. I mean, like, let's see. Penalties also, Rich. They were pretty disciplined in the first game. The second game, I think they had 7 penalties for 47 yards. And a lot of these penalties came on big chunk plays. They had like 3 or 4 chunk plays of 10 plus yards, all got penalized and had to come back. So that just kills any effing momentum that you had.
Yeah.
The O-line getting beat like a drum, man. In the run blocking, I guess the pass protection was pretty solid. But for this scheme to work, you need to run the ball. And there was 17 rushes, and they only gained 31 yards with 3 different rushers. Like, it was really bad. There was negative yards. I think the longest rusher was one of the quarterbacks. I don't know if that was Lance or DJU, one of them. It was definitely this new wide zone scheme that they were struggling with. The Niners consistently got penetration. And last week, this team ran for over 100 yards. So I don't know if they're trying something new out. I don't know if the Niners are better than projected than the Texans 2s and 3s. I don't know how long, if the Niners had their 1s out there longer. I'm not 100% on that. I do know some guys got banged up in this game. Look at KLS, he kind of got banged up. I mean, he's back at practice, because this was last Thursday, obviously. Brennan Thompson got banged up. Branson Taylor, who is the guy that I have projected as making the 53, shocker. He got like an arm or shoulder injury or something. He was laying. I was like, oh, God, please no, please no. I'll take the arm and shoulder, give that a few weeks or whatever to heal up and something like that. Scott Matlock, that experiment might looking like it's coming to an end. He ended up leaving the game and was on the sidelines in a boot. And, what this show we're talking about today was 53-man projections. And, he's not a good D tackle. He's not a good fullback. He's not a good tight end. They've asked him to do all of it. And, credit to him, he's coachable, but he's not good at any of those positions. And we have other guys that can do those jobs. So he might be a guy that either gets cut or, gets signed to the practice squad. And I'm all for it because I'm kind of over it. He seems like a nice guy, but, sometimes nice guys finish last. Defense, too. The starters gave up too many third downs. I don't think they gave up a score, but they gave up way too many first downs. The Niners, projected first offense. I mean, CMC wasn't out there. Mike Evans wasn't out there. Their new rookie, I forgot his name. If anybody in the chat wants to hit it, he looks really good, the wide receiver. Their rookie running back, Keon Black, looks really good as well. I think he was Mendoza's running back at Indiana.
Yeah, I wanted Keon Black.
He looks really good. I want to say the defense had 16 missed tackles or something compared to 2 the week before. So I'm just I'm like, what went wrong from the week previous to this week, And then Kennard and Tucker, the guys that I was hoping would take that 5th edge spot, just did not put anything on tape, did not like I guess Tucker had one play where he got a free rush at the quarterback and it caused a pick six. But to be fair, throughout the game, he really wasn't doing much, and neither was Kennard. And Kennard's a fourth-round pick a couple years ago. Tucker's this UDFA that's coming over with the new DC. So not good on the fifth edge front. But then I'll talk about, so what I had to do is dig through all this trash. I had to find players that stood out and that actually played well, right? So Andre Carter, the kid they signed, the kid out of West Point we talked about a few weeks ago, or was it last week?
Yep.
I think he had like 4 pressures in this game. I think it was like almost a 24% pass rush win rate. Like pretty solid, dude. Like you just got here and you're doing better than the other 2 I just mentioned. Awesome. Hats off to you, buddy. Travis Burke, dude. One of our projected swing tackles. Absolutely fantastic, dude. The guy's a freaking beast. And I see guys, they're nitpicking him, rightfully so, because this is what we do on the internet. We nitpick players. And they're like, I don't know about his feet. I don't know how his feet. I'm like, dude, I don't care, man. The guy plays with physicality. He plays with violence. He's a big dude, and he's healthy. That's a good thing for the Chargers. But so I'm really stoked on him. Yes, he's probably still raw, but I got to make him a 53. And then another guy, our third-year player, Igboigbe, who is one of our D tackles, D end out of Alabama. I'm calling it, and a lot of other Charger fans are calling it. This guy's going to have a breakout year, dude. He had 6 sacks last year. I think he's going to eat this year. He's looking really solid in camp. And then I'm going to shout out a couple UDFAs who are fighting to make the 53, Rodney Shelley and Avery Smith. Avery Smith is the guy I got projected probably to make it out of Toledo. He was Quinyon Mitchell's mate,
Okay.
when he was coming out, but this guy went undrafted. He's looked pretty decent as a cornerback, and the Chargers could use cornerback help because, their top 3 are locked in. They're not elite. They're not bad. They're just solid cornerbacks, and we lost a pretty decent fourth for us last year. Benjamin St. Juste, who was horrible for the Commanders, came to the Chargers. Jesse Minter coached him up, and he did pretty solid for us. So we lost him in free agency. I'm not 100 where he went. So we are looking for a 4th, a 5th, stuff like that. And then another guy I want to shout out. There's some more guys I want to shout out, obviously, and then we'll move on. So obviously the Biotish injury has thrown a huge wrench into the Chargers, right, in the offensive line. I think that wrench is probably going to stay within the Chargers throughout this season. Hopefully the wrench breaks up into pieces and is not such a huge wrench as the season goes along, if you catch my drift, with Jake Slaughter projected as the starter as a rookie. Not easy task. But Jake Slaughter's backup, a UDFA guy, I think we talked about him last week, Rebel, Jacob Spomer out of Fresno State.
Yeah.
So guys who have more time than I do looked into him. He is the best center in all of preseason throughout the NFL, graded out.
Yep.
Which blew me away. And because remember, we talked about his size. He's like 6'2", 290. He's not a big guy, but he's just a technically sound kind of guy. So really ecstatic about that. If anything were to happen to Slaughter, it's not like we're going to throw this, turnstile door in there. We're going to have a guy in there who still raw, slightly undersized, but he should be able to get the job done. Kendall Williamson, another guy in this secondary, balled out, ex-quarterback type of guy in the secondary. Man, I hope he makes the 53. We'll just have to wait till we get the projections. Marlo Wax, second-year linebacker. Looks like he's going to be the real deal, pairing up nicely with, Henley or whoever else is on there for the inside linebacker role. And then Alex Harkey, one of our 6th-round picks. he looked pretty solid out there. And then one more guy, and then we'll move on. We'll turn it over to you guys. Is Junior Colson. This is now going into his third year. He dealt with season-ending injuries, appendectomy, all this stuff, and he's looked okay in camp. Now, he didn't do really anything in this game but catch a pick six. He ran it in for a pick six. Other than that, I think it was like a blip. So at least he stood out. I'm just like wondering, I'm like, does the coaching staff take for granted his draft pedigree and that he's a Michigan guy? Is that enough weight to keep him on this roster, or do they move on and go with a different guy? But other than that, just like the Men in Black GIF I shared on X, like just erase this game. And all I hope is going into this week's preseason game against the Rams, that it's a much better run operation, more disciplined, no 3-and-outs for the first team offense. Just needs to get cleaned up. I mean, it was, like I said earlier, way too many missed tackles, penalties, just sloppy operation. I mean, look, dude, the running game was abysmal as well. So other than that, yeah. So move on.
Move on.
Yeah, so that's all I got. Richie, you're on mute as well, by the way.
No, I know. Had a bit of a family emergency crop up here that I had to run away to get the dogs in here during the podcast because my one of my kids needed to get picked up in a rush. So
do you want Rebel to go next to talk about his game?
No, I'll be fine.
Okay,
I'll be fine. So there's an awful lot of folks in Broncos country that are telling me to slow my roll. It's just a preseason game. Don't worry about how things went. Don't worry about it. Vanilla this, vanilla that, all that kind of stuff. That's totally fine. Okay, great. You know, we can try to soothe ourselves with those platitudes. And if you wish to live off of the hopium drugs, then that's totally cool. You do you. But I think there's some really legitimate issues that we need to discuss for my Denver Broncos coming into the last preseason game and as we start moving into the season. Now, I'm going to start with some good stuff first, and then I'll kind of go into where my real concerns are. Number one, Bo Nix looks sharp. He looks on point. He was carving down the field. He knew exactly how to do things, why to do things, all that kind of. It was actually impressive. In fact, if I'm going to be honest, you saw the style of play that you would have wanted to see last season, this season, but even at a slightly more elevated level. If he can continue to play like that this year, the Broncos are going to continue to be a very, very dangerous team. Now, that's one of the good things. Some other good things. Jonah Coleman looked great. We had our first Waddle sighting where he caught the ball, and he looked great. He looked exactly as you'd want to see for a guy with his skill set, elusive, yards after catch, check, 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 check. Cool, great. We had some decent offensive line blocking, but not great. Now, those are the things that we're going to say, yay, congratulations, pat on the back, the obligatory nonsense. Now, where we need to really talk about stuff here, and this is where the rubber meets the road, and this is, frankly, a weakness from last season, and DZ, you and I have known each other long enough. We've been on the show together. What was my number one draft pick that I wanted my Denver Broncos to pick in this year's draft?
Oh, wow. You put me
Manu Mendoza?
It's got to be a trench guy. I was thinking I don't know. I feel like, well, damn, it's somebody big because it's really somebody big.
Somebody big.
I'm like now digging through the file cabinets in my brain right now. I'm like, dude, what was Richie saying? Like he wants, is a big running back, like a big running back?
No. So I'll
Yeah.
jump in and speed the show along, but you are not wrong. Now, I have always been a build from the inside out kind of guy in terms of how teams are meant to be built. I have always been pushing for big, angry, both offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And in this case here, my number one pick that I wanted my Broncos to target in this year's draft was to go after a interior defensive lineman that was both stout against the run and could rush the passer. So I had a couple guys that you saw in our pre-draft shows and all that kind of stuff that I was throwing out there. I even suggested that we as Broncos, because everyone was saying we had such a solid roster, I was saying, I kind of agree. Like, we have very few holes that need to be filled. We got Jalen Waddle, right? We kind of did the right thing in that regard. So why not trade a couple picks, consolidate some of that talent, and trade up into the second or even to the back end of the first or something to try to get a legitimate dude that can actually step in today and basically fill in that middle interior defensive lineman role that could also, get some penetration through that offensive line on your opponent.
You're talking about due to the departure of JFM.
Yeah, I'm saying that we got DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach, which are both somewhat undersized for that interior D tackle position. But you want that dude that's so I'm going to throw a name out there. You guys may or may not remember him from my Denver Broncos, but this is kind of the general idea that I had. He went by the nickname Pot Roast. His real name was Terrence Knighton. You may recall.
Rings a bell.
You may recall that name. He was a legit player. He was that guy that was like a 4-sack, 5-sack a year kind of dude. He was also known where you saw some of those old school sacks on the quarterback where he would literally take his entire 340 to 350 pound body weight and just belly flop on top of the quarterback just to let him know that he was there.
Refrigerator Perry type.
Yeah, exactly. And while that kind of play isn't allowed anymore in today's NFL due to some of the rules that are in place, totally fair, I understand. But you need a guy like that on your team. You need a guy who is a game wrecker in the middle of the field that forces the interior offensive lineman to look inward rather than outward at your defensive ends and defensive ends and outside linebackers. And that's what I was wanting. That's what I'm looking at. And the reason why I went into all of that is to say this. The Denver Broncos were getting torched in the run game. They were getting pushed out of the way. They were getting moved out of the way. And they didn't really get that interior pressure that we so desperately need if we're going to start winning these football games. And that's a big deal. Like this is not something that you can just say, oh, well, totally cool. It's like, nah, man, you just can't do it. Like you can't win games like that in today's NFL. There is a reason.
Real quick, Richie. I'm
just
looking at some of the D tackle sizes.
So Wazirike is the closest guy that we have to, fat man in a little coat. Please, someone tell me they got the reference. Anyone? Anyways.
Yes. Rest in peace, Chris Farley.
Yes, I totally agree.
But live.
Yeah, right there. But again, all of the top teams that have gone as far as they have in even to win the Super Bowl is they have a dude who's 6'3", maybe 6'4" at the most, but like 340 pounds.
Dude, Wazirike is a beast. He's huge.
Yes, but he has struggled the entirety of preseason. He showed some progression last year. I will give him absolute credit. He's also the guy on the team that many of you might remember in his second year. He had a 1-year suspension. But not for what you think most guys would get suspensions for. He got caught betting on games and stuff in college not even in the NFL, in college, with inside track knowledge because he knew a bunch of the college players and coaches and all that stuff.
I was wondering if he's betting on his own team or against his team.
I look, the details were never really fully released, which is unfortunate because I'm not gonna lie, I just wanted to know. Okay, like I'll
Tell
call
me, damn it, what happened?
Yeah, I'll call it what it is, dude. I'll call it what it is. I just want to know. But at the end of the day, he got caught for betting, obviously against the NFL policies and all that kind of stuff, and he got nabbed for it. He literally just got nabbed for it. We got a $9.99 super here from Faded Raider 4 for Raiders Rebel. Just wanted to make sure we brought that in, and congratulations. I appreciate, and I'm sure Rebel appreciates the support. But yeah, this is the problem with the Broncos. It's just you don't have that guy that's really kind of shown consistently that they can get after the quarterback from the direct middle of the field, clog the run, get guys slowed down on a regular basis. Look, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, they've got their moments, and I'm not trying to take anything away from what they've done and how they've done it. Okay, like that's not what I'm trying to do here. What I am saying though is that you need that dead center guy that you need to go around in terms of getting upfield, and that makes a, pun intended, I suppose, that makes a big difference.
Richie, what about your rookie, Onyedem?
He's a JFM clone.
Okay.
So he has looked awesome, by the way. Okay. I'm not even like. My thing is that if you're going to win on the defensive side of the ball, which is going to get you far and into the playoffs, and if you then no longer want to rely solely on your defense, which I don't think we're going to need to this year. I think the Broncos offense is looking much, much sharper this season than it did last. You want that yin and the yang, though. So Sean Payton has been very, very clear that these one-score games will not cut it this year. You can't win in the NFL by basically winning every game by one score. The Broncos won nearly every game by a single score last year.
It was like what, 9-2, 7-2?
Yeah.
Like that.
And a lot of fourth quarter victories too, like comebacks where they were getting cooked in the first half and third quarter in a couple of those.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, let's just be honest. The Broncos had no business winning that Giants game. But we scored 30 points in like the fourth quarter. Yeah, that is quite literally unheard of because I don't believe it's ever happened before. And I would be shocked if it ever happens again. Okay. Like it's just insane. And so the Broncos knew what they needed to do coming into the season this year. And I think we did exactly what we needed to do. We upgraded the offensive side of the ball. We did a bunch of stuff that we needed to do. We moved to a play caller that calls more of a hurry-up style offense, which is what Bo likes to do, and he thrives on that sort of an offense. But then on the flip side, you need a defense that then can play, pretty good. And then ideally, you want the defense to kind of play more takeaway ball by getting takeaways and getting your offense back on the field so that there's this complementary style of football between A and B. You don't necessarily only want your defense to be like the grinders and the beatdown artists that the Broncos were last year, which they were. Like they were that style of defense last year.
I mean, how many sacks was it? Like 60 something?
No, it was in the 7. We were too shy of the 85 Bears.
What did I say? 63 or 60?
It was 70. I think the 85 Bears were 75 or something like that, or 76 or something, and we were like 74. We were basically. Know that
many players. It wasn't like 4 players on that team with those sacks. Yeah. It was a group effort.
Yes, it was.
Everybody got a sack.
Yeah. It was. The defense had a very much of an Oprah Winfrey approach to getting after the quarterback.
Dude, I want to say that the Broncos had some ridiculous stat. It was like when they rushed 5, they had like a 73% pressure rate. Like,
yes,
absolutely batshit crazy. That's how, like, a
yes,
70-something% pressure. You can't do anything. You're like, set hike, and then you're like, oh, boom, get, like, there's no hanging onto the ball, kind of thing. That's nuts.
I agree. But the thing is that the Broncos need to understand that as good as we were last year, every other team is attempting to improve to compete against that.
Right.
And I'm going to be the harshest critic on my own team. I always am, but I also find that I'm quite realistic in my assessment of the Broncos, which is the Broncos did a lot of things really well in this offseason, but I really think we very much dropped the ball when it came to the interior defensive line in terms of bulk and mass and style of player. I just hope that we can recover from that and start to develop some of these younger guys. I'll cover that when I do my 53-man roster as well, because we've also had some challenges on the drafting side in that front as well. So as an example, DZ, you asked about Onyedem.
Yeah.
Well, the actual fact of the matter is we shouldn't have needed to draft Onyedem. We should have been able to draft a bigger, heavier nose tackle style player there. But because of Savion Jones not panning out to be the guy that we need him to be in our defense, we had to get someone who better fit our play style and our team. And I'm going to cover off what I think is going to happen with Savion Jones just a little bit later in the show. So Rebel, that's my take on the Broncos. We lost. We got our asses handed to us. It was bad. Like, it was objectively bad.
We got our asses handed to us too, 41-17. So
yeah, it was
Aiden
objectively
O'Connell
bad.
saves our, you know what?
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at, guys. Like, that's what I have things. It is what it is. I hope we can do better. I really hope we can do better, and then we'll go from there. But anyways, that's where I'm at. Your turn, and Rebel. Let's get some good news going. Let's get some good news going in this joint, man.
Rebel, you started with a key guy that I think could be possibly on another team come week 1. Right? You think so, or do you think no?
I kind of get that feeling. You know, he came out and said he wanted to be a starter. He believes he's a starter in this league, whether it's with the Raiders or somebody else. And at the time, he was running with the second string, and now he's running with the third string. So, yeah, I don't know. A lot of people say they keep 3 quarterbacks. Talks that they keep 2 quarterbacks. If they don't keep 3, I think it's a failure. You know, you're not going to get maybe a 5th or a 6th round if you're lucky to get a 5th. But, you know, and who's going to take on $3 million, you know, this year for a backup quarterback? So their best bet, I believe, is to keep him. But, you know, all signs are starting to point like, you know, why keep him? If Mendoza's that guy and they feel like he's going to play sometime this year, you know, you can go and get him back up next year. But to me, it just doesn't make sense. You keep a guy on the team that has chemistry with the players that are on the team and, you know, let him be the backup there. But if he doesn't want to be a backup or believes he can be a starter in this league, then I feel it all comes down to Aiden O'Connell and his agent, right? If
I'm
they
just like thinking of teams,
you know,
like where could he go kind of thing right now and like get some playing time. And when, you know, with injuries and stuff, somebody's probably going to be on that phone with Spytek and be like, yo, dude, like, here's a 5th or a 4th or something. We need homeboy to come over here and save our ass.
I mean, there's a lot of teams you could look at. I mean, the Falcons right now, if you've seen what Tua's been doing, I mean, Penix is just now getting back. You can go over there. You know, the Vikings haven't looked great with with bringing in, you know, JJ McCarthy hasn't looked solid over there.
I think
so
Kyler Murray's
going
to be their guy.
If Kyler Murray's their guy, do you really want JJ being the backup? I would be surprised if he's, you know, in Minnesota for much longer.
Yeah, didn't he say he wants out of there like a fresh start?
Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios. You know, the Cleveland Browns and the situation they got with Deshaun Watson. I'd take Aiden O'Connell over anybody in that building.
They screwed up. They
you know,
screwed up, dude.
You give the kid time to throw, and he's gonna pick teams apart. And he showed it. You know, he didn't have the greatest game, but he was 16 for 24. had the drive at the end from the 3-yard line, 96-yard drive or whatever. So, come back to win the game. Like when he took over in the second half, it was 20-3, right?
Oh, wow.
They drove down, they got a touchdown. They couple decent passes, couple of run plays. The defense really stepped up, man. The little bit of second, I think they had a couple of the ones or projected ones in there, for a little bit, but most of the time it was second and the threes, and that defensive unit stepped up. The play calling stepped up. It looks like they kind of mixed up the plays a little bit, let the guys get after the quarterback, and ran a lot of coverage, different coverage on both sides, where they're running cover 4 on one, cover 2 on the other. So looks like they mixed it up and changed it up, and the defense just started getting after them. So they got the ball back, and another I think they had a 3 and out or 4 and out. I think they had one good play at first down, but yeah, they stuck it together, and Aiden O'Connell made some big plays. And
I should have watched the second half. I only watched the first half of the Raider game.
We're sitting right there, but we're sitting right there behind their goalpost, like 12 rows up or something, and pretty much in their, whatever you want to call it, like our version of the black hole, right?
Yeah.
Behind the field goal. So we're sitting in enemy territory with nothing but Texans all around us, and I think there was one Raider fan behind us, and then pretty much that was it. So yeah, we're there yelling and screaming. The first half was no fun. Fernando Mendoza, he looked all right. He had some plays that, of course, everybody's seen on SportsCenter. Oh, that's a great throw, and that's a shocker. But none of those throws impressed me. I seen Aiden O'Connell, the 4th-round pick, make those throws against San Francisco as a rookie and go 15 for 18 with almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And then him do it against the Chargers,
and then he did the same thing against the Rams, right? And then he put up 4 touchdowns in the first half against you guys. So I mean,
was that like 2-3 years ago?
2 years ago, I do believe. So yeah, I mean, the kid can play football. So you put a guy that's already been a starter out there, and could be a backup or a starter. And I still believe, like he believes, that on the right team, he could be a starter in this league. I feel like
Atlanta, man. That's why
I feel like if they would have just gave him a chance and put him with the ones throughout camp instead of pushing him back to the threes, and they would have had a competition, I felt like he could have, I felt like he would have won that competition. Just the way he reads field, the way he reads the field. And, when I was playing football, they always told, the quarterback is you read the grass, not the ass. Excuse my language. Or you read the grass, not the guy. Right? You read the grass. You're reading the open spots of the zone. And if anybody wants to go back and watch the all 22, or wants to come on my channel and break it down, we'll break it down. But the all 22, man, that last drive, he knew where he was going with the ball. They were running the same defense. They're running a cover 2 on one side and cover 4 on the other. So they got their square and their triangle, and he started to see it and get in a rhythm and pick it apart, just making, chunk plays here and there. But that last drive, on that last play, as soon as he's looking around, he knew where he was going with the ball right away. He looked over one time and threw the ball. Like, he threw the ball and the guy was barely at the 20-yard line. So he ran 20 yards, caught it, at the 1-yard line, was down at the 1. So, the kid knows what he's doing. He knows how to read defenses. He's decisive. He knows where he's going with the football pre-snap, and that's hard to teach in the NFL. And I didn't see that from Fernando Mendoza,
it takes
right?
Experience for that.
It takes time. It takes experience. And I see, Mendoza hold the ball too long. I mean, he's been hit 9 times in the preseason, more than any quarterback, more than any starting quarterback, more than any quarterback in the preseason. That's not good for your rookie quarterback that's not even starting or not even projected to start, right? So to me, it just doesn't make sense for him taking those shots or being out there. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody comes and picks up Aiden O'Connell, but I wouldn't be surprised if they keep him, just because, you never know in the NFL. I think 2 years ago, 63 different quarterbacks started in that NFL season.
I'm over my backup quarterbacks, Rebel.
Yeah. Last year it was like 48 or something. I mean, that's a big chunk. You never know in the NFL. So if you can keep 3, you can afford to keep 3. I mean, it makes sense to keep him. You never know. And I feel at this moment right now, he's a better quarterback than Fernando Mendoza when it comes to, making plays, reading the defense, know where you're going with the ball, being decisive, not putting the ball in harm's way, not taking sacks, not holding on the ball too long. And, I've said it all along. I feel like he should be quarterback too. And I'd have, Fernando Mendoza as the emergency until he was ready. But,
you're going to piss off a lot of your fan base.
It is what it is. I always stand on mine, and I have my beliefs, and they're not always right, but they're most of the time not always wrong either. So, you can watch the film and see the difference between, one thinking and one just snapping the ball, looking off his guys, knowing he's got 2 high safeties, right? Knowing your 3 tech is, where your 3 tech is, and that's your strong side, knowing where your nickel is and whether he had, if he's in and has run defense or just pass plays, right? You got to know that as a quarterback. And that's, pocket presence, timing, having a little ticker in your head is something you can't teach. And it, if you do, it takes time. And for Mendoza and what I seen in college, I didn't see him have to read routes. I didn't see him have to read defenses. I didn't see him have to know who the mic was or where the protection was going, as much as some of these other guys. So I just feel, and yeah, people are going to hate it, but I just feel, I'm not saying he's not the guy, but he's just, there's a reason they went and got Kirk Cousins, right? There's a reason they brought a veteran in the reason. And, maybe they're hindering, in my opinion, maybe they're hindering his development by bringing in Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins to take all the first team reps. You could have had Mendoza and Aiden O'Connell competing back and forth, taking first team reps for the first month. And then, whoever started to show they was that guy, let him be that guy. And the other one, still take the majority of the first team reps instead of bringing in a veteran and then playing with 2s and 3s. I just feel like, to me, that's hindering his development. And the best way to learn is on the field. And if you're only playing with 2s and 3s and you're getting confidence thinking, oh, yeah, I can make these plays against the 3s, but then you go into a game like Houston and you throw that interception after you have, a solid play. 2 plays later, you're throwing a pick 6. I mean, he threw a pick 6 in the Houston practice game before that. You didn't learn from that. It was almost the same play. A throw to the running back, got picked by the linebacker. I mean, Aiden O'Connell throwing over the middle that last play. If you look at if you go back and look at next gen stats where they show the charts of where they throw the ball, their strengths and their weaknesses, Aiden O'Connell is red in the middle. He doesn't throw over the middle of the field. That's his biggest weakness as a quarterback. It's not great, but it's below average. So for him to make that throw and be decisive, that's growth to me, and that's development. Taking a chance with the game on the line, 39 seconds. That's the heart of a lion to me, right? Like you could have, you could have took the check down because they ran levels, a double out to one side, and then they kept the both tight, the tight end and the fullback, I believe, and the running back in the block, and then send them all back out. So once they released, the defense was froze, and Aiden O'Connell knew it right away. The ball was out. I was like, oh, that's a tutty, that's a tutty, But so. Damn good game.
Any guys?
It was
stepping up.
82. It was Brandon Johnson, I do believe, made the catch. And then as far as receivers or running backs, I felt like the
Trey Lance, man.
Owen Loby or whatever that we got from Houston. He showed a lot of potential in the pass pro. Running the ball. So the Ashton Gentry, I'm sure everybody's heard of the Ashton Gentry injury. We thought it was the end of the world. Everybody's praying, taking a knee, finds out that it might not be as major, but it's still an ankle sprain. And sometimes it could be, 15 days to 3 weeks. So you don't know what's going on with that. So I don't know what they're going to do at the running back situation. You got Dylan Labe, you got Mike Washington, who coach said in the interview that, they need to see a lot out of Mike Washington against the 49ers, which I don't know if I'd play him that much. You just had Genty injured.
You need to see a lot out of him.
Yeah, I mean, because he hasn't ran.
Coach speak or some BS. Because Mike Washington looks like a dog, dude.
Well, most of his work has been with the 2s. I heard a little bit that when he was going up against the Houston in the joint practice game, when he was going up against Houston, that it didn't look very good, right? Not a lot of holes, but you're going up against a Super Bowl caliber defense. So, that's a big thing too. I mean, you have Will Anderson on one side. I mean, the whole defense is stacked. So that doesn't
But
really say a lot.
is that an indictment on Washington, or is that an indictment on the offensive line not holding their own against a better defensive line? Like
That's
I'm
that's
like
a,
that.
that's a great question, right?
That is
Yeah.
a 7-layer
you know,
bean dip question.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the open practice. I was still on the road, so I didn't make it to the open practice. And, but I would have loved to find out. Not, nobody's has any film or anything on it. I guess they didn't, let him show anything. Not a lot of talk about it, but yeah, just from what I heard, a little birdie in my ear said, didn't look great against the ones, but up against the twos, and maybe it's just knowing since he's been running with the twos all this time in practice, maybe it's just knowing and having that comfort ability with your offensive line that you've been running with the twos, right? You know who those guys are, where they're going to block, and know if they're down blocking, or how they block, or their quickness, how long it takes to get to the block, right? Are they solid on their block, or are they missing all the time and you might have to bounce it outside or bend it inside? So comfortability is a lot with your offensive line. So that's a damn good question, and I don't know, because we haven't seen our offensive line, our starting offensive line. They ran 5 plays with Kirk Cousins the first preseason game. We haven't seen any of them. When Mendoza started, it was with the twos. They had, maybe
they didn't have guys rotating.
No, they had maybe 1 or 2 out there, and they brought in some
Who's
twos
projected
the second time. So
right tackle, is that Grant or
Glaze? DJ Glaze is the right tackle. Grant's been pretty much running at left tackle. Where I figured that's where he was drafted, to be that heir apparent to Colton Miller. So they have him mainly over there. And not much of a battle for DJ Glaze,
Okay.
But we'll get to that in a minute. I felt like the run game was really solid. They ran the ball really well in the second half. The first half, they really it's the same old thing. The first half, it just doesn't look good for us. So it seems like our backups have been better than everybody else's backups. And I don't know if that's a good sign, because a lot of those backups probably won't be on the 53-man roster. And so it's great that our backups are better than theirs. But if they're not going to be on the team, then what good does it do? So I've seen a lot of good things. Again, Cedric Jackson missed a pass, but he's getting better at running routes. The great nephew of Bo. Don't know if he makes this team. Malik Benson had some 2 bad drops for Fernando Mendoza that were right in his hands. I mean, perfect. I don't know if he just heard footsteps or what it was. So, not good from him.
Who I feel bad for, but we talked about it a couple weeks ago, is Dante Thornton has been like a non-factor. He's like banged up, just not connecting on anything. And it's just such a shame, because he's such a specimen of a human, right? Like just size and speed. But that's a guy I'm like, damn, dude. Weaponry wise,
Yeah, and he wasn't dressed. He hasn't been practicing. He wasn't out there for that game. He hasn't been practicing. My thing, if it's me, I feel like he's going to go on the IR. But they already have a receiver on the IR that they already put on.
Yeah,
and
how many?
Corey,
you can only do a certain amount of players, right?
Yeah, I think it's 3 or 4 or something.
You got to be careful, because you want to save them or something.
2. So yeah.
Well,
so Rich is saying 2.
There's some.
They already have Corey Rucker that they put on IR.
That's not necessarily fully true. So there's 2 guys that you can have on IR that, like, so the old rules in the NFL, when you did your roster cuts, you had to keep the dudes on the 53-man roster that you eventually wanted to move to IR after. But that basically meant that you had to do some legitimate roster gymnastics to try to keep the other guys that you wanted to try to have them backfill with and all that kind of stuff. The NFL has released newer rules where you can designate guys to IR to return, and you don't need to do that roster gymnastics. You can just literally build out your roster by kicking 2 guys over and going in that direction.
I think what I just saw, which Richie just probably talked about, was you could have up to 8 designated to return. So you want to save those, because boy, has my team needed them in the past. So 8 players that go on IR, you want, those are the ones designated return, and after that, you're pretty much up, the creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah,
They don't count against a 53. 4 games. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else about going into the season though.
I believe that you can only do that with 2 guys at the roster cut down, though. I believe that at the 53-man roster cut down, I believe you can only kick 2 guys into that designation as part of your roster cut down. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive. Like I'm in like the upper 90s in terms of being positive, in terms of that's the limit, and that's kind of the way that works.
Yeah, so I mean, they already have Corey Rucker out of Arkansas State that they placed early on. So I don't know if they were trying to hide him or if he was actually injured,
releasing him or something. I bet you,
or what's going on. So more than likely he'll end up getting released if they have to put Dante Thornton, which I believe they will. And you might even have to put Ashton Genty on there for the first 4 weeks just to be safe, so you can keep another running back on the roster. I mean, that's how I see that.
And the pathway player only counts on the practice squad. So
I think we lost our pathway.
If you have a pathway player that isn't on, like if your pathway player is on the 53, you don't get to carry 54. But if your pathway player is developmental and you're bringing him up, you can have a 17th man on your practice squad that is that pathway player. And that has been for the last 2, maybe even 3 seasons, but at least 2 seasons where you have been allowed to have a 17th man who's a pathway player on your practice squad.
Shout out to Bayou Raider for that. Yeah. So So I know you can protect some people on your practice, so it's just one, the pathway player.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, but they have so many decisions. I mean, right now we haven't seen a little bit from Jack Besh. You didn't see. I don't think he played it. I don't think he played at all against Houston.
What did Arnie just say, that both Raiders and Niners are not going to play any starters in this?
Yeah, they're not playing any starters again. So basically, Raider fans have seen our offensive line go out and Kirk Cousins throw the ball 5 times. They ran the ball 4 or 5 times, and that's what we know of our offense. So
it's going to be a mystery.
That's been my problem. Is you have Mendoza doing his thing. He's learning. He looks great at times, or not great, but he looks okay at times. But he's a rookie. You got to get comfortable. It's all new to him. I feel like everything he's doing in this system, taking snaps under center, he doesn't look comfortable. That's all new to him. Everything he's doing right now, turning his back to the quarterback, having to read defenses, having to know, if you have 2 high safeties, if you're in cover 4, if you're in cover 3. I mean, there's just so much for him to learn that I felt like he didn't know in college, or, it was basically, here's your route. You're throwing to this guy. If it's not guy, hit your check down, right? Or, hit a guy crossing in the middle of the field. And I felt like that's what a lot of it was in Indiana. And that Cal, a little different, but still, I mean, the kid took 9 total snaps under center in his whole college career. I mean, he was pretty much under center the whole game, and he just looks uncomfortable. Now, when he's in the gun or, in a pistol, then he, to me, looks like he's a lot more comfortable, has a little bit more time to examine the field. But, the interception, a lot of people have, was it Mike Washington's fault? He's supposed to sit. He's supposed to drift. I mean, when I played running back in junior high and high school, right, they taught me that, you run your route, but if your quarterback's drifting, you follow your quarterback, right? You don't sit. You don't want him throwing across his body, so you move with your quarterback as the running back, right? You're his check down. That's what you're supposed to do. Or even a tight end, if that's your guy, you follow the quarterback. So, he was drifting away, tried to throw it sidearm behind his body a little late. It was just a bad throw and an interception. So I don't, miscommunication, whatever you want to call it. I just, to me, he could have stepped up in the pocket and threw the ball way earlier. He should have been through that progression a little bit earlier than he was. And it's a learning curve for a rookie. So, I just don't feel like he's quite ready. I just don't. So, you got to have a third quarterback ready, in my opinion, because, you don't want to throw him out to the fire in and live bullets are flying the way he's been hit already in the preseason, not knowing any of the starting offensive line except for the one day where Kirk Cousins wasn't out there. You don't have any time with the starters. You've thrown a couple passes to Jalen Naylor, a couple to Chuck Tucker, and the last couple of days he's been throwing to Brock Bowers. But that's if you're going to play, you have to have continuity with those guys. So receiver wise, again, no Jack Best, Philip Dorsett. I don't know what's up with him. Brandon Johnson had that touchdown. He's looked pretty good. Devin Tompkins has been a guy that's made a lot of plays throughout the preseason for us. Trey Tucker, obviously seems to be that guy, but man, everything I hear in practice, it's up and down. Same thing has been no consistency. And Clint Kubiak said, he was asked, are you happy with your wide receiver room? He said, well, they got a lot of work to do, and they got a lot of work to do fast. We're still looking for that guy to, that we can count on to be Mr. Consistent. So they're not happy with the receivers in the building. And I'm sure Raider Nation, that was one of the biggest thing is there was so many receivers in this draft, and they just tried to, put a Band-Aid on it. If you were going to start Mendoza or had any intention to start Mendoza, you probably would have went and got him one of those top rookies that there was so many of. Tight end wise, I was really impressed with the rookie Patrick Gurd. He's been playing a little bit, fullback, can catch the ball, well out of the backfield. Really, really impressed with this young man. I just don't see him making the roster. Carter Running, the guy that I thought was going to make the roster, has been not out there like Dante Thornton the last couple of weeks. He's just been not in practice. No update, no injury update. Nobody knows what's going on. So you have, 3 guys that haven't been out there, or 4 guys that haven't been out there now, and nobody's telling us anything about. We have no idea.
I agree. Well, I think we've covered our games, and we've done a pretty good job at kind of breaking things down. I'll go first with my Denver Broncos 53-man roster. It is Brock Bowers, but the problem that Raiders, you guys have a problem with understanding
deal
is but it's not even that. It's Brock Bowers is a way better blocker than I think a lot of Raiders fans are giving him credit for. And you can't just chuck him out at wide receiver and just ignore the fact that he's also capable of blocking. Like, you just can't. Like, he's a well-rounded tight end, although his strength is obviously route running and pass and occasionally blocking.
Yes.
But you can't just ignore the fact that he's capable of doing more than just running routes. Okay, like, you just can't. But anyways, let's jump right in to the Denver Broncos 53-man roster projection. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up here on screen.
By the way, Richie's really excited about his graphic here, so I want you guys to all be nice. Give him credit because it looks clean. It's not written down in pen like mine is.
Yeah. So
is that your roster projection or ESPN?
That is my roster projection.
Well,
now
I should have sent you mine. Damn it.
I have a. If you dump it over to me, I can upload it real quick. So a couple things that I want to point out. I have a couple things where this is what I think the team will do, just generally speaking. But I have a few question marks. So a couple things of note. Number one, I would prefer that Stidham and Ellinger are not my backup quarterback coming into this season. My preference would be that AOC gets cut and then the Broncos pick him up.
The Chargers pick him up.
So I think there's also.
Lance
I'm sure you would.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure if that happens, bro, this show is going to be.
Dude, little Jordan Humphreys on your practice squad.
Yes.
Jeez. I feel like he might get snatched.
Okay, so
with all the wide receiver injuries that have been going on throughout the league, Richie, I mean, you can't protect everybody, but dude, I have a feeling like he would get snatched. And Throckmorton is on your practice. Oh my goodness gracious!
Vested vet. They get to choose where they go.
That's, I mean, probably. We don't know. There's like that waiver thing, and it's like, right? But I'm sure there's like these back deals with agents and with the clubs and stuff where players are like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere or here. You know what I mean? Like, you would. I'm still looking at your deal.
So I'll break it down here. So this is my projection for what I think the team will likely do. Although there's obviously going to be, it'll likely look nothing like this, and we'll see how wrong I actually am. But this is what I have. Quarterback this year, I believe the team only carries 2. You're going to have Bo Nix and Jared Stidham. That's my quarterback room for the Denver Broncos.
You're not going to have one on your practice squad?
Sam might end up on the practice squad, truly might. But that just depends on if he thinks he can get an opportunity elsewhere. He might kind of say, you didn't even give me an opportunity, I'm done. And by the way, Rebel, Sam Ellinger is kind of our version of AOC with the team here, where Stidham looked like trash, but they kept putting him out there with elevated players to try to help him. And in my opinion, Stidham has done himself no favors to try to earn that kind of gravitas on the team. I think that Ellinger has had camp where most have said that he's looked better than Stidham throughout camp. And I think that ultimately, if I had my way, if you're saying, Rich, feet to fire, if you had to pick Stidham or Ellinger, I'd say we've seen Stidham already when it mattered and you needed him to step in. I would rather get Ellinger in there if I had a choice between the two, because to be quite honest, if you lose Bo Nix, you're screwed anyway. You may as well get yourself a different backup quarterback to see if they can develop into something more.
It's like 90% of the teams.
And lastly, by the way,
with having Sam Webb in the building, you let that young man develop.
Davis Webb.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but Sam Ellinger, as an example, and one other kind of piece there is his skill set is a lot closer to that of Bo Nix. Sam Ellinger is a much more mobile quarterback, whereas Jared Stidham is more of a pocket-style passer and will run on occasion. Bo Nix has got legs, and so does Sam Ellinger. So if you're ideally, if you're in a perfect world, you want your backup quarterback to kind of be a bit of a proxy to your starting quarterback so that you don't necessarily need to redo your offense or alter your offense in any meaningful way. You want kind of some ebb and flow, just like, one stepping in for the other.
Yes.
Running back room, this was probably the easiest decision for me. I spent 3 seconds on this, not even. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, Jonah Coleman. That was it.
You see Jalil's on the practice squad.
Jalil's on the practice squad, and even that, I could see him getting poached. And look, I think he's done great for the team, but we just didn't have a good running game, and he was one of the main stars, quote unquote, in that room last year. So, I just don't see Jalil making the roster, in my opinion. I think we're going to end up with 3. Now, I do want to point this out. Adam Prentice is going to be on this team one way or another. Okay? Sean Payton loves his fullback, and Adam Prentice is an absolute tank at the fullback position. However, Adam Prentice is also a guy that you can do a little bit of roster gymnastics with. He's a vested veteran. You can move him to the practice squad, create a bit of a backroom kind of deal with him, and then basically after week 3, you will sign him to the 53-man roster, and he will live out his 2026 NFL season as the primary and active fullback on your team, and that's just that. So that's my prediction, is that Adam Prentice is going to be the guy.
And to be fair, people aren't really poaching fullbacks.
No, not at all. Anyways, that's why I only have 3 running backs, because eventually, in my opinion, we're going to move Prentice back onto the 53-man roster. Now, wide receiver, and this is where I am sure to get some folks being like, dude, what are you thinking? Why are you doing it? Da, 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 so on and so forth. I could see my team, if we did something different at the tight end position, and I'm getting there next, keeping 6 or 7 wide receivers. And the reason why I'm saying that is one of them is basically a return specialist, or it could be a backup return specialist and a special teams guy, like maybe even a gunner. And that's Colby Katzis is basically going to be Marvin Mims' primary backup, in my opinion. But he could also step in if we wanted him and be a speed threat. He's been very good at running this preseason. I also think that the team will not be able to afford a Marvin Mims extension due to other contracts that we're going to need to fulfill in the offseason. And Katzis has looked incredible in the return game in the preseason. In my opinion, he will not make it through waivers. He will be picked up in a heartbeat.
Rich, with your return game, like I'm sure you've paid attention, like your kick and your punt. Do you know who else has been out there with Katzis? Like other guys returning kicks, punts?
It was Tyler Bidet.
Okay.
And any guy that insists that his last name be pronounced like a bathroom fixture needs to be flushed off the roster, in my opinion. It just is what it is. So that's like, look, he had real potential last year, Tyler Bidet did, on the team, where he could have shown out and really solidified himself as like the other running back without us needing to go out and get a Jonah Coleman. And he just couldn't step up. He couldn't do what was needed, and as a result, I just think he's going to be outright cut, in my opinion. So in terms of wide receivers, I have Jalen Waddle, that's a given, Pat Bryant, given, Cortland Sutton, and Marvin Mims. Now, the last 2 wide receivers here are interesting because Troy Franklin is an interesting guy. He's kind of coming up to where his contract's going to expire. He's a guy like Mims, pardon me, that we're not going to be able to probably extend. And DZ, you made a comment with all these wide receiver injuries and stuff like that. He's a fairly competent wide receiver that could actually be sought after by a number of teams. He's got a good blend of size and speed.
Mims, Franklin,
yeah,
and I throw in your practice squad guy. Are all guys I can see on other people's 53s.
Yeah. And Faded Raider jumping in again. Jumping in for Rebel. Nice work, man.
Faded Raider? That's $4 he's thrown out.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yep. So either way, in my opinion, DZ, my comment here is Marvin Mims is too good to straight up trade or cut. So I think we're going to keep him because he's a Pro Bowl return guy, and we're going to keep him.
Speed too, man.
Yeah, we're going to keep him to the end. He's really started to polish his game up a little bit too. And then the reason why is I think that's why Katzis stays, is that Katzis is showing to be a better route runner, in my opinion, than Marvin Mims. He's done some really good things in preseason, and I think you kind of keep him so that you don't lose him. Another guy that I want to bring up, just because some folks might be saying, well, Rich, you're not bringing up the other wide receiver. And this is Cameron Ross, number 87, who I have over on the practice squad. He's also been a dude that has looked, pretty impressive, actually, for my Denver Broncos in preseason. But I just think we're going to try to stash him if we can on the practice squad. But because I simply think that Katzis had speed. He also had some pedigree coming out of his college with his college return stats. And I think that he's shown that he can cut it at the NFL level in the preseason. And I think too many teams have seen that now. I don't think you're going to get him through waivers. Troy Franklin, though, could be your Devon Vele this year, where you kind of get the Godfather offer that you're just like, look,
I can see it.
Yes.
I can see that with either him or Mims, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where I'm at with that. Now, moving on to the tight end room.
Which, by the way, is the 3rd most expensive tight end room in the league, fellas. which
Yes.
doesn't make sense to me, but whatever.
I agree, especially considering they have not been great for years now. But anywho, Adam Troutman, Justin Joly, Dallin Bentley, Nate Atkins. I kind of see those four as a lock, if you were, for the roster, in my opinion. Dallin Bentley is really the only one that might not be, but Dallin Bentley has actually shown to be one heck of a blocker in preseason. And the one thing that both Davis Webb and Sean Payton value is a tight end that can inline block, but then also break out from their block and then pass catch. And Bentley, Adkins, and Troutman, at least, both fit that mold. Jolie hasn't been quite as good in that regard. He's been more of your pure pass catching guy. And then that brings me to Evan Ingram. I want him traded, like really badly.
It's the money, though.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I think, again, if you get anything that is even reasonable in value, I think the Broncos would, because you could certainly use that body elsewhere and still do well. You'll also note over here on IR, I have Caleb Lohner, who is a developmental massive tight end who's basically got the height, size, and speed of like Rob Gronkowski. And I think that he's a guy that the Broncos really like, and they've made multiple comments about how good he's looked all through camp. He had some cleanup surgery, and they've intentionally held him back, in my opinion, because I believe they want him on IR.
Okay.
And he will be, in my opinion, on the IR designated to return.
Oh. He's getting cut.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I have for the tight end room. My hope is that Evan Ingram goes bye-bye. Real quick, I'm just going to chuck here at the bottom just to, remind everyone.
Like, share, subscribe.
Like, share, and subscribe, and hype if you got any left. Go ahead and click that thumbs up button. It looks a little something like that. It really does help all of our shows out, and all of our channel links are also down below for those of you who are just joining in right now. So we really do appreciate the support and the views, whether it be during our live or after the fact.
The more you hit the like, the more YouTube sends it out.
It really does, 100%. The algorithm values comments as well as likes, and then also watching for a mid or reasonable period of time. So it'll track your watch patterns, and it'll start sharing those videos out with people that have similar watch patterns, or even ones that have liked similar videos to you as well. So it really does help the show. My tackle prediction is Garrett Bowles, Mike McGlinchey. So those are your two starting tackles, left and right. Alex Palczewski. Palcho. Now, Palcho is an interesting cat because he is a right tackle. He's also can play both guard positions. And for those of you who don't remember, he filled in for Ben Powers last year. And there was literally no drop off, like zero, like at all. So when you have a backup that literally can step in and plays like a starter,
must be nice.
That is an embarrassment of riches. And this one here is probably my controversial pick. Probably my bias is showing is Tyler Miller he's that UDFA. He's an absolute monster of a dude. And I believe Sean Payton's tried to hide him a little bit in the preseason. He had him play kind of near the back end of the games. But when he was in there, he played really well. Like really well. And so I think that teams that are outright looking for dudes that other teams paid big dollars to obtain, Miller is going to be on folks like eye test lists.
Wait a second, Richie.
Yep.
Time out. You don't even have the guy that you guys just traded for.
What guy?
Foster Sorrell?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I do not. That this list can change slightly depending on how he plays in preseason. Like if he comes out and looks like a monster in our preseason games, then obviously you can swap some guys out, right? But as of right now, where I think my team is at, I think this is roughly where we're going to end up. And then we got Quinn Miners, Luke Wattenberg, Cage Casey, Ben Powers, and Alex Forsyth. So those are all the guards and centers kind of merged and combined. Alex Forsyth is our backup center. Now, I'm going to put forward a little bit of an interesting piece here. I could actually see us not keeping Alex Forsyth because he's in the last year of his deal.
Is he related to Stone Forsyth?
I don't think so. However, I could see us keeping Ortega instead of Alex Forsyth as a UDFA pickup because he's looked really, really good and he's got guard and center flexibility. And you can never have enough solid defensive or offensive linemen that are showing potential. And with Alex Forsyth likely out of your price bracket for next year to re-sign, you're probably going to want to look at Ortega as that looking ahead sort of guy who's looked certainly serviceable and likely a guy of the future. Cage Casey, by the way, is also looking like he's going to be a guard of the future for this team as well, someone else to keep in mind. So offensive side of the ball, I have chalked us up to 25 on the offensive side of the ball total. Obviously some ebb and flowing here, but I think that this is largely going to be what you're going to see from my Denver Broncos. Defensive side, and this is where I am sure I'm going to get slandered by a whole bunch of people, but I don't really care. Zach Allen, Jordan Jackson, and Wazarike. We spoke about him earlier in the show. He's the biggest D lineman we have on the roster.
6'6", 340, I think, or something.
Yep. Now, he's not looked nearly as good this preseason as he did last season, but nonetheless, the Broncos are going to need bigger bodies, and Jordan Jackson kind of fills out that roster there in the interior, kind of the bigger defensive linemen. Now, defensive tackle, you got DJ Jones, Onyedum, Malcolm Roach, and Jordan Miller. So Miller and Jackson, these guys here are the two kind of longer shot guys. They're kind of at the bottom of the defensive line roster. And depending on where some other guys and maybe where we like UDFA or even waiver wire guys as pickups, they could be cut and not make the 53 as a result. So that's just something to keep in mind. The one guy you're going to note is not on the roster here is Savion Jones. I believe that the Broncos are going to look to trade him or just will outright cut him. In my opinion, the Broncos are looking at this year as a we must win, and they need to get the best guys on the field to make sure that happens. And Savion Jones, in my opinion, better fits Rebels defense than he fits mine. Savion Jones is better suited for a 3-4, a 4-3 rather than a 3-4.
Let's go get him.
He is better suited as that kind of bigger outside rush guy that is required. So he would be a type of dude that you would have as a rotational guy filling in and sitting behind like a Max Crosby kind of deal.
Savion Jones.
If you look at his college stats, he just fits he fits that mold. That's what he did. He has struggled too much in the interior side of things for my Denver Broncos. He's undersized, hasn't put on mass, hasn't looked great, but he would certainly, in my opinion, fill the Khalil Mack, Max Crosby, like kind of that bigger body, DeMarcus Ware, that kind of bigger body dude on the outside. He would fit that role. So that's my defensive line. Just for the record, that is 7 defensive linemen on my 53-man roster. Then outside linebacker, I have Benito, Ellis, Robinson, Jonathan Cooper, and DeAndre Tillman. Tillman is just too darn good to not keep. That dude's a stud. Like, he's just a stud. And that's who I believe we're going to end up keeping on the 53 from the outside linebacker position. Johnny Walker Jr. is another guy that might be kept. And then there's a couple other guys that are in that maybe class on the outside linebacker side as well. Then that moves to the inside linebacker. We have Alex Singleton, Red Murdoch, Justin Stenod, and Corinne Reed on the inside linebacker room.
Mr. Irrelevant making it.
I do. I think he's looked too good in preseason. He has looked amazing in that role. And I just believe that Torian York, who I kept on the practice squad just because, he's just not looking good. All of Broncos country loves him. They think like, oh my gosh. He might be good on special teams, but he's way too undersized and he's been pushed around the NFL. Get him on the practice squad. Tell him to go eat a few cheeseburgers, see where he lands after that, and then kind of gauge him in 2027 to see where he's at. And then we move to corner. Pat Surtain, Jade Barron, Chris Abrams-Drain, Riley Moss, and Jaquan McMillan. I don't really see us having room for a sixth, although there are definitely some solid UDFA guys here, and I mean that honestly and truly. And even if we don't keep a sixth, Chris Abrams-Drain has struggled. He's had a bit of a roller coaster in preseason, whereas we've seen some really solid play from Brent Austin as an example. And it's possible that if the team really likes him, they could be looking at maybe a little bit of a swap as we try to continue to upgrade our roster going forward. Last but not least, safety, Hufunga, Devin Key, Brendan Jones, and I have JL Skinner making the roster instead of my guy, Miles Scott.
Did something just happen with one of your safeties? Or
Yeah, we brought in Ross. We brought in Ross as a safety. He never practiced because he was hurt. And I thought the team, by the way, for the record, and I will admit to this, I had Ross over on the IR return list over here at one point because I thought that was going to be our plan, which was bring him in, have him not practice, keep him on the sideline, and then mid-season when you inevitably have an injury to a guy that you don't want an injury to happen to, you bring Ross back in as your dark horse guy that you've kept on ice this season. Have him come back in and can kill it for you, right? And I thought that's what we were going to do, but we cut him outright, so that's not going to happen.
That's never good.
I think that just says how they feel about him as a person, right? I think as a character guy.
Yeah, that's never good. Just get cut outright.
No.
I think was it the Colts or somebody just released a guy they just signed, a cornerback?
Yep.
I forget what his name is, but it must be something behind the scenes. They're like, nope, see ya.
Yep.
Yeah, we picked up Noah Brown and released him like a week later.
Yeah.
Dude, somebody else that's what I was going to say. Yeah, Noah Brown just got bounced. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to quickly blast through the guys that I think are going to be on the IR pup list. We just spoke about that. 2 guys can be moved over. I have Frank Crum moving over, who has not looked good at the tackle position this season.
Clown Crum.
Yeah. And I have Caleb Lohner starting over there on the IR list as well. These guys I have both as probably designated to return. But you can bring them back as early as 4 weeks, and I think that's fair for my Denver Broncos. Practice squad members I have as well are Throckmorton, Lil John Humphrey, Adam Prentice, Johnny Walker. He's the outside linebacker I spoke about.
Yep.
Who, could potentially even make it onto the 53, depending on the injuries and everything else. Miles Scott, Reese Taylor, Torian York, Galvin Ortega, Cameron Ross, Jordan Turner, Deshaun McCullough, who I think is probably kept around because he's position versatile. He's an outside and inside backer. A lot of Broncos country don't realize that, and I think he's got some positional value. Brent Austin, Son Fresh Jr., and Jaleel McLaughlin, the favorite little mini running back that we have on the team.
How many rookies do you have making the 53? I'm just like, I think I see 1, 2, 3, 3, maybe. Show me where else I'm missing.
I have 6,
All right.
7, 8.
Oh shoot.
8 making the roster, and
Ooh.
1, 2, or 3 UDFAs.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Tyler Miller is a UDFA. Colby Katzis is a UDFA.
I'm sure that wide receiver making your roster might stir the pot a little bit within your
Yep.
Broncos country.
Yep. So I have Colby Katzis and Tyler Miller.
Where is he from? Does it say where he's from? Off the top of your head?
And off the top of my head, I don't have it. No.
I'll come up now.
And so this year I would have in my prediction, I would have 2 UDFAs making the roster. Now, in reality, I could see Tyler Miller being risked and going over to the practice squad, and us maybe keeping another maybe proven guy or something like that.
Dude,
but that's what I'm thinking.
Northern Arizona University Lumberjacks.
Yep.
Yep, that's probably why explains why he was a UDFA.
But if you've seen the way he's played in preseason so far, it's actually pretty remarkable. When he's returned the ball, every time you see him return the ball, you're like, who was that?
Mm.
And then you've also seen him gash other teams in the long, in like the route running, kind of, especially getting off of his breaks. He really is a guy that I think can do a lot of great things for us, and I think that we could develop him.
Now, but was that with your 2s and 3s?
He's with 2s and 3s, yeah.
This is where I'm thinking, like, they still might try to put him on there to protect little Jordan Humphrey.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. This is yours.
Yep. So I kind of went a bit of a mix. I went with what I thought the team would do, and then I also put a couple guys on there that I just kind of liked and I think are too valuable to not have on the roster that I couldn't bring myself to not make the team. And so this is where I'm at. Yes, the graphic is mine. No, it's not ESPN. Is what it is. But
it's perfect. I love it, man.
This is where I'm at. So
a little jealous.
That's my Broncos. That's my Broncos roster projection there.
This is a 2 thumbs up thing that Richie just made.
Yeah. Damn good work.
Well, we'll be able to tell relatively shortly here, because cuts will happen right after our next game.
I agree. Yep. So that's who I have on the roster. I think it'll be an interesting one. I think there is some room for some additional changes. The Broncos brought in another 3 dudes today on the roster, some kind of ebbs and flows in the roster as well. So there is some room for that prediction that I just had in that graphic there. If the Broncos brought in those dudes because they wanted to just kind of slide them right onto the 53, then that could change the roster here for sure. However, we'll wait and see where we're at. Like that tackle, for example, that you spoke about, DZ. He's got some games under his belt and all that kind of stuff. So it's possible that the Broncos are looking at him as we need a competent backup left tackle kind of guy that we want on the roster for now, and then they'll cut him later. Like, who knows? So we'll go from there. So let's go down to Raiders Rebel. Let's talk about your 53-man roster.
Good luck.
And go from there.
Good luck. Yeah, I got, like I said, we don't know what's going on with Aiden O'Connell. Do they keep him? Do they let him go? So that kind of kind of changes things up. But I definitely got Kirk Mendoza. Running backs is a little different. Ashton Genty, Dylan Labe, Mike Washington, I feel are locks to make this team. I think Dylan Labe has finally found a coach that knows how to get the best out of him. He looked pretty solid in the preseason, running the ball, catching the ball. Not too bad in pass pro, so I feel like he's a lock. And then Dare Owen Bole, with the Genty injury, I feel like you have to keep him on the roster. If you put, if Ashton Genty doesn't go on the IR, then more than likely it's just Genty, Labe, and Mike Washington. But Roman Himby's played very, very solid. Another kid that was at Indiana. I don't know if you can hide him on the practice squad. I'm sure they're going to take a shot. I don't think they're going to put him on IR or anything. There's running backs, so they say, are a dime a dozen, right? I mean, you find guys like Mike Washington in the 4th round, or find guys like Scatterboo, or all these guys 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds. A lot of people don't like to draft in the first, so I feel like you can get another running back. But I hate to lose Himby, right? He has shown good signs. He runs the ball hard, plays well. I think he's done probably better than most of them in pass pro, but again, playing with the threes, so doesn't really show much. But yeah, that's my 3 there. Like I said, I think they keep Dare if they have to put Ashton Genty on the practice squad. Fullback, they're keeping Connor Hayward. I really wish, like I said, that they would keep Patrick Gurd. I think he has the highest ceiling. He shows like he can block pretty well. He catches the ball out of the backfield, pretty well. It looks like he knows the routes he's running are, out of the backfield when he is coming out of the backfield, and he plays tight end. So I kind of like the young kid. I wish they'd keep him. Hopefully you can hide him on the practice squad. I feel like that's where he'll go, but Connor Hayward definitely. Receivers, I feel like they keep 5 or 6. I feel like they only keep 5 because of cuts, and they're probably going to add somebody. Maybe they just keep one and then let them go. But right now I got Jack Best, Malik Benson. I'm hoping Cedric Jackson. I think he's done enough in the last 2 years and been on this team and shown that he deserves that shot. Jalen Naylor, of course, they brought in Trey Tucker. And then they brought in Derek Young, hasn't really done anything or shown anything in the preseason. He was brought in to kind of be that kickoff return guy and punt return guy. And right now, they have other people filling that role. So just don't know where he stands. Justin Shorter was tight end last year, hasn't really done much. So, I don't know about him. Corey Rucker, we talked about that. So, and then Dante Thornton, I feel like they just outright cut him and wash their hands, or they put him on the IR. I just don't see him being on the 53 man. It just doesn't make sense, and I don't know how they would justify it. Actually, like this kid hasn't been in camp. He needs more development than the receivers we have in the building right now that are out there that are available, and availability is the best ability. So, yep. I just that's what I see with him. Tight ends, I would love to keep 4. I don't know if they do. So I'm going to go Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, and more than likely Ian Thomas. He's done something. You guys brought him
in the offseason, right?
Yeah. So he's done a couple of okay things. Like I said, I would rather keep Patrick Gurd and Carter Runyon in this situation, but Carter Runyon is, I don't know. We don't know the scenario on him. He just hasn't been at practice. So no word, no questions asked, but if they keep 4, Gurd or Carter Runyon would be my 4th. Albert OK is a big guy, 6-year guy, just missed some passes in the preseason, hasn't really done anything that I think is going to help this team. Center-wise, this is difficult because they have Tyler Linderbaum, Jordan Meredith, Will Putnam, and Trey Zune listed as center. So I feel like they keep definitely Tyler Linderbaum, Trey Zune, and I feel like you got to keep a Jordan Meredith. I mean, we've talked about it, how I feel like, Jordan Meredith, whether they have him listed at center, you can list him at center. He plays both guard positions. He's just valuable. He's a guy, you can move around in the interior.
When he's healthy, he's good, man.
Yeah, and then Trey Zune, I feel like, is the future center. Tyler Linderbaum's only signed for a 3-year deal, right? Do they re-sign him in 3 years, or do they move on and just hand the reins over to a guy like Trey Zune? So I feel like you bring in Trey Zoon, you let him be that, swing all around guy that can play both tackle positions, the center and the guard. And, that's one less lineman you have to keep. DJ Glaze at tackle, Charles Grant and Colton Miller, I feel like the only ones they keep. I would keep Dalton Wagner, and I didn't get to talk about it earlier from what I seen at the game. Dalton Wagner's been on this team. He was one of the highest UDFA ever paid for the Raiders when they kept him 3 years ago out of Arkansas. The dude's 6'8", 330-something pounds, huge reach, right? Just a mammoth of a man. Just the footwork's not there, right? Just footwork's not there. So he's been on the practice squad the last 3 years. But at the Houston game, when they had the ESPN timeout, everybody was locking off the field. He called the offensive line and was like, no, get over here. And, he was getting into him. He was like, hey, took his helmet off, and you could see he was lighting a fire in the offensive line. And after that, they drove down, they scored a touchdown. The next drive, they scored down, they came down, they scored a field goal. And he was holding his own out there, right? He was standing guys up. So Dalton Wagner, a guy with that size, I'd hate to lose him. So I just don't know if you can hide him on the practice squad again for 4 years. I'm sure they're probably going to try, but
a dude that size isn't hiding anywhere.
Right? Yeah. Maybe behind a tree, but it would have to be a very large, wide tree. Other than that, he's not hiding behind anything. Isaiah Jada, Missouri, I feel like one of those guys definitely are going on the practice squad along with Dalton Wagner if they can keep him on there. But there's not a lot of tape on Dalton Wagner, which is a good thing. If they're just going back and looking at the Houston game, then somebody might be like, man, I don't know what the Raiders are doing and why this guy's not playing. But I've been saying this for, a couple of years. No competition over there. You don't give him, reps with the twos or the ones to see if he can handle his own against a guy like Max Crosby or Kwity Paye, right? If you don't get those opportunities, you don't know what you have. So that's just poor coaching, poor development. Hopefully that's all in the past with this new coaching staff. Guard wise, I got us keeping 3 guards: Spencer Burford, Jackson Powers Johnson, and Caleb Rogers. I think they cut Antonio Mafi. I think they cut Justin Pickett. Antonio Mafi just too many big just letting guys walk by him in the preseason, right? When you're playing with the twos and the threes and you're letting guys just blow by you, for his size, he's like a bowling ball. I think he's like 325, 330 or something. Like, he's just a big wide man, but it's just not all there when it comes to, knowing your assignment, and you got to be able to do your 111. So keeping 3 guards, the reason is, you have Jordan Meredith that we kept at center, and you have Trey Zoon that we kept at the center position that can play both of those guards positions. So I don't feel like you need 3, 4, 5 guards. And I feel like you have a couple spots that I'm talking about in a minute, right? Kobe Dean, the Kobe Dean at linebacker, Tommy Lindenberg, Cody Lindenberg, who has been playing like a stud, man. This man was, constantly posting stuff on IG of him out there grinding all off season until camp came in. He was at the Sack Summit with, Max Crosby, I think, was out there. This guy's just been out there grinding, or maybe not the Sack Summit, but the guy's just been out there grinding, putting in the work. And every day in practice, he's breaking up balls from Kirk Cousins. He's breaking up passes from Mendoza, right? He's out there, as a linebacker, doing his job covering. So second-year guy we got in the 7th round, you'd love to see that, right? Development from, for a guy, 7th-round pick that's he's going to get a lot of snaps this year. He's definitely making the roster. And then you brought in Segun Alobi and Quay Walker. Both of those guys make the roster. So I got
what about Eichenberg? He's not making it?
Tommy Eichenberg, yeah. I got Nakobe Dean, Eichenberg, Lindenberg, Segun Alobi, and Quay Walker.
There's like 2 Bergs in there. So I was like,
both of the Bergs, Eichenberg and Lindenberg. But as far as Eichenberg goes, he played okay during the preseason, and I wouldn't be surprised.
I was high on him coming out of college, but
yeah. He's a solid tackler. He's got good instincts, right? It just hasn't shown. But I think a lot of that was the coaching staff. You had Patrick Graham that doesn't allow your linebackers to blitz, right? You're playing in coverage when you shouldn't be playing in coverage instead of, rushing the quarterback or trying to stop the run. So I think a lot of that was, again, a lot of these players, well, you'll hear me to say coaching. They just haven't had opportunities. But yeah, I got 5. I'm keeping Sagun Alobi. They brought him in. I just feel like his special teams asset and, a guy that hasn't really shown much in the preseason, but I think just as a special team, kind of an older guy out there, they keep him. And if not, it's not, Buddy Johnson has done a couple good things. Cameron McGroin looked okay. I wouldn't be surprised if, him and Brandon Jackson are on the practice squad. And then my Arkansas kid, Xavier Sorey, hasn't really done a lot to stand out, right? Hasn't got beat, which is a good thing. Made some tackles here and there, but hasn't really done a lot. So, yeah, I got 5 linebackers. Corners where it gets interesting, very interesting. I got 6, which is, about right. But you could probably keep all of them. You could probably keep 8. It's that. To me, are probably 7. Like Caleb Oford hasn't done a lot, but they got Tyron Johnson, which the way Traden Stukes has been playing, taking over.
Tyron came from Buffalo, right?
Yeah, from Buffalo. But the way Traden Stukes has been playing, Tyron Johnson's only got a 1-year contract. Do the Raiders, want to pay him when the season starts? Are they going to start? Is it going to be a problem? I wouldn't be surprised if they just move on from him if Traden Stukes keeps playing like he's playing. And at that position, they got him playing a nickel. You have guys like Greedy Vance, who's been playing very, very well in practice, breaking up a lot of passes, having interceptions. Second-year guy out of USC, was a UDFA, came in with was a Pete Carroll guy, but Greedy Vance has shown an awful lot. Then you have Eric Stokes, Darian Porter, Gerard McCoy, Hezekiah Massis, and then Dekamarion Richardson. Was drafted 3 years ago in the 3rd or 4th round, I do believe, and been kind of just put away. But he's been showing flashes and not too much in the preseason. I really didn't see a lot of his name. I seen more in the first game than I did a second. I don't know if he was out there much, but yeah. So that's a guy you could probably keep on. But I wouldn't be surprised that, like I said, if Traden Stukes keeps playing the way he's playing, they might just.
I like the way he plays. I mean, we talked about it before the show. I was like, yeah, he stood out to me.
Yeah, and then you got Dalton Johnson, who's been playing a lot of kind of that nickel slot guy as well, and then Tristan McCollum, 3 years. He's been 2nd year with the Raiders. Showed a lot of improvement this year. He had a couple of flashes last year here and there, solid tackler, but in that last game, man, he really stood out. They were playing a 2-high shell. And, a lot of cover 4, or they're running, cover 3 on one side, cover 4 on the other a little bit of time. So Tristan McCollum came up, stopped the run, made a lot of good plays. I don't know how you let a man like that go. So the secondary is going to be crazy to me. They might only keep 5 because Aiden O'Connell situation, right? Or because of the Ashton Genty situation. Yeah. So that makes that kind of questionable. But all those guys have played well. And then safety-wise, Jeremy Chin, Dalton Johnson, Tristan McCollum, and Traden Stukes.
How has Chin looked in preseason?
Who?
Jeremy Chin.
Jeremy Chin, another starter we haven't seen.
That's why I was wondering, because I was like, I haven't heard his name.
Yeah, and we haven't. That's why I'm like, we don't know anything about these guys unless you're playing with the 2s and the 3s for the Raiders. Like, they are not giving up anything. I don't know if they're just that good.
Could be strategic, man. To be honest.
Yeah, I don't know, and that's been my question. Is Kirk Cousins that good that he doesn't have to play in the preseason at all? And if so, why is he taking all the first-team reps in camp? If he's that good, right, where the system and you feel like that's your guy and he's going to be the guy, why are you hogging up all the first-team reps in the development from Fernando Mendoza?
I can answer that, though.
Because you got to get most of the reps, and you got to learn, timing with those guys. And I get that. But why you have guys like Josh Allen playing into the second quarter? Easily the top 3 quarterback in the NFL. This dude's out there, running 3-4 drives, and Kirk Cousins is nowhere to be seen. I just don't feel like Kirk Cousins can show enough against our defense in practice, who hasn't been able to stop anybody in the preseason, how are you showing enough against that defense for this coaching staff to just still be like, you're the guy?
Who
You
you
know,
guys
That's
playing
fair
week
enough.
one?
huh?
Who you guys playing week one?
The Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
So, not a great defense week one, but I just don't see how you can justify not being like Kirk Cousins, the guy, right? He's going to be the guy, and we're going to play, Mendoza, not even with the ones, or give him some. And, Rich said something earlier where, you're trying to look guys good by sprinkling in ones, a little bit of the ones. They did that. They tried to put, who was it? They tried to put Jalen Naylor, with the ones a little bit, Jack Best with Mendoza the week before. So they've been sprinkling a little bit of starting receivers, trying to, make them look a little bit better. And thank God they did, because that pass, everybody was like, oh, he burned it in between three people, right? Jalen Naylor's like stretched out like Spider-Man trying to catch that ball, right? If one of those rookies, you don't know. So shout out to them for, trying to make the rookie look good.
He's one of my favorite, like, under the radar additions the Raiders made is Naylor. If it comes to fruition, we'll see. But I think that out of your receiving room, like, he's got, look who he had in front of him for most of his career, right? And now he's kind of got Brock Bowers is probably the only guy, maybe Trey Tucker, but it's usually just Brock. So Naylor this could be a big year for him.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of has to be, because, like I said, from what I keep hearing from Trey Tucker, it's the same thing. It's just not consistent. Nobody's stepping up. Nobody stepped up in camp and said, look, I'm that guy. Throw me the damn football. And you got to have those dogs on the field. You got to have that guy that says, look, I want the ball every single time. And, I know a lot of people call them divas because they're good at their job and they think they're open all the time. But you got to have those guys in that mentality. And same thing I said with the offensive line, last week. You got to protect your quarterback. Who's going to be that guy? Same thing. Coach Ozani has preached, no block, no rock. No block, no rock. Go out there, be physical. If you're not going to block, you're not going to get the football. I just don't see anybody that's, stepping up and being that dog that's trying to put guys on their back when they're blocking, or, trying to be that guy, or when they do get the ball, you're getting your opportunities, you're letting them slip through your hands, literally slip through your hands, like, right in your hands. And it's, you can't catch the football. So they're still looking for that guy. And, I believe this roster, the 53-man roster that I'm talking about right now, I would say probably 4 or 5 guys that I'm projecting right now will end up being cut for somebody else that got, released, because we're first on the waiver wire. And, all those guys got to go through us. So pretty much about everybody that gets cut, you got to come through us first. So if it's a big name player, then bring them on, right? You get those guys you can afford, or, you got a youngster that you want to go with the youth movement because they're kind of at the same level. And you're like, well, I could pay this guy $12 to $15 million this season, or, just take my losses and pay this dude, $1 million or whatever it is for the next 3-4 years. If you got one of those rookies, or less, if you have a UDFA. Dog's gonna go nuts. Right. And then defensive end, I think that's probably gonna be loud for a minute. But defensive end, I think is where it gets. And I forgot. On the safeties, is if Traden Stukes takes over that safety spot, with Dalton Johnson, they've both been kind of mixing in and out. I got Isaiah Palomalo even being traded, or, just being cut. I just don't know where there's a spot for him, which, that's just me. I don't know if they keep the vet, but if you're going youth movement, I think they paid him $4.3 million this year. I don't know what they save on the cap, but, more than likely they're going to try to trade him instead of just letting him go. But I wouldn't be surprised if, they're already on the phone, because there was a lot of talk saying Traden Stukes was going to, be that safety, especially that single high safety. And then everybody was like, why is it Palomao? Why is it Palomao? And now the last week it's been, the dog, the dogs don't like the roster. Mom just came home, so yeah, apologize. No worries, I thought I had that blocked. So yeah, Isaiah Palomalo is going to be a different one. And then when we get to defensive end, I got us keeping 6, but a lot of it's not the 6 people are going to think. I got Karan Crawford, Max Crosby, Kwity Paye, Cyan Sloan, Jafari Harvey, and Patrick Johnson. I feel like Patrick Johnson has done enough. I feel like if you watch the tape on Jafari Harvey, his bend, his motor, the way he gets to the quarterback, his size at the edge is more than Malcolm Kuntz is giving us. And I know everybody's like, where's the Malcolm Kuntz thing?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Malcolm Kuntz ends up getting cut, or if they just, try to trade him, and or if somebody says, hey, what's going on with your roster? Because everybody calls everybody.
And Raiders Nation really hasn't seen Kwity Paye, right?
Yeah, we haven't seen much of Kwity Paye, but the guys that we have seen is Jafari Harvey and Patrick Johnson. Patrick's will probably get a lot more with the 2s this week, and probably Jafari Harvey too. We'll see what they did, but against the 3s, which were kind of the 2s and the 3s in Houston, Jafari Harvey seemed like he was in the backfield every single play. I mean, he was cooking whoever they put in front of him. I was like, man, we don't have that burst from anybody on this line, not named Max Crosby, right? Maybe Kieran Crawford. I just don't see how they keep Malcolm Kuntz for $11 million when, we've been, what's it been, 5 years now? I mean, 5 years you're waiting for this guy to break out. He had one good season when Antonio Pierce took over. The next year he's hurt. I mean, how long do you continue to wait and let valuable talent like Cyan Sloan, we'll get to in a minute, or Patrick Johnson, or Jafari Harvey, or Karan Crawford? I just don't. If it's me and I'm and I'm in charge, I'm going youth movement. Sorry, Malcolm Kuntz. I'm sorry. That's Max Crosby's guy. And I feel like a lot of that is why he's still here. They're boys, and they've been boys. They came in together, or, a year apart or 2 years apart. So I just don't see a place for Malcolm Kuntz unless he goes crazy in this game. But, man, he got opportunities with the 2s and wasn't doing anything. Like, just wasn't doing much at all. He's not getting much push. He's not good in coverage. He's not good at stopping the run. And I hate to say that because I really like Malcolm Kuntz and I thought there was a future. But, man, the guys behind him right now, Cyan Sloan, every day in practice you hear 2 sacks on Mendoza. Right? Before that, it was a sack on Aiden O'Connell. Now it's sacks on
Where did he come
Cousins.
from? Where does Cyan Sloan come from?
North Nebraska.
He's a rookie,
State,
right?
North Carolina. Shit, I don't even.
I can look it up. Is he a rookie?
Yeah, rookie UDFA, Cyan Sloan. The kid is a monster, bro. He is Max Crosby reincarnated. He had the motor, the hand swipes, the movement, and that was the kid that I had confused with Lindenberg. But he was at the Sac Summit with Max Crosby, learning from all these guys and all these top defensive ends. And the kid is a monster. He can play linebacker, outside linebacker. He has the speed. He's good in coverage. The instincts of getting to the ball are just off the charts. And I just don't know how you don't put him on the roster. So this is one of the UDFAs that I have. Not a lot of UDFAs making this squad.
He's got a weird number for being a DN at number 48. But yeah, Cyan, however you want to say it, Sloan, NC State, yeah.
Yeah, NC State. Dude, I mean, watch the film on him. The young man has just the motor doesn't stop. He's tackling guys for loss in the backfield like Max Crosby. I mean, he's coming, across the backside and chasing down running backs. The kid has done everything. So he, to me, I'm going that way. And then Patrick Johnson, 6-year player. Don't remember where they brought him in from. I know they just brought him in a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of people were saying it was just a camp body. Absolutely, completely wrong. He is not going to be a camp body. I would be surprised if he doesn't make the roster. He just, you can put him on the edge. You can kind of put him at the 4 or 5. I don't know what his size is, but it's the way he plays. You probably 3 tech as well. I think he plays all those positions. So Patrick Johnson is another guy that has really come on and made a name for himself. And, I don't know, like I said, Kwity Paye or Kieran Crawford just got a little burn. I don't know what a lot of these guys have done, but Patrick Johnson, definitely, and Cyan Sloan and Jafari Harvey. I would be shocked if they are not on this roster because I just don't feel like you can hide them on a practice squad. And then defensive tackle wise, Jonah Laulu, Tonka Hemingway, Thomas Booker, which is I I don't know why, but I want to say questionable because they had him with the ones, they had him running with the twos, and he was even down taking some snaps with the threes. So I don't know what's going on there. If they were just figured like, man, go out there and try to, help these young guys. We're in the process of coming back against Houston, right? Our defense is playing okay. Let's send some more guys out there to
maybe bring the level up of the twos and threes
Yeah,
he's playing with to kind of help them out.
yeah, trying to elevate those guys. So I got Thomas Booker, Adam Butler, Jonah Lalu, Tonka Hemingway, and then Fatu Kasi, 8-year defensive tackle that came from Houston. Another guy that just
Both
was
look good.
just moving bodies over there.
They look,
just,
they look good
just
in Houston.
constantly moving bodies. He was beating his guy, over and over and over again. And again, it's the third string offensive line for Houston. He'll get more burns with the twos this week to see where it goes, but I really see him making the roster. Practice squad, I think it's guys like Trevin Maye, which, I was really huge on him. It's another guy that hasn't got any burn because of the coaching staff. And then JJ Pegues is another guy that I just don't see a spot for. He hasn't done, in the time he's been out there, he hasn't done what some of these guys like Fatu Kasi and and Hemingway and unless they decide to move on from a guy like Adam Butler or Jonah Laulu, which I just don't see. I think JJ Pegues is kind of be another practice squad guy again. And then, of course, the kicker, Matt Gay, unfortunately, it's not Daniel Carlson. I want Daniel Carlson.
Yeah.
Daniel Carlson to the Saints.
Dude.
I was, they picked up Daniel Carlson. They picked up Zamir White. They also have who else that we traded for? Damn, I can't even remember his name already. That's crazy. Tyree Wilson.
We're running low on time, so I gotta get through my team. So
yeah, that I think that's my 53 practice squad. I have no idea who the practice squad is going to be because, like I said, there's so many guys that cut up and down. So yeah, that's my 53.
And we'll all be surprised, and we're all probably going to lose somebody that we really like.
Oh, I'm gonna lose a couple people, I think.
Richie message. I got to get through this real quick so we can end the show. So, two quarterbacks. I think one goes to practice squad. I think they keep Trey Lance just due to the familiarity with the Shanahan system, even though I don't like it. The dude sucks, in my opinion. He needs to go.
Do you not think that you're going to bring in a different quarterback?
Hoping that.
Okay, because I think you guys will, in my opinion.
I'm hoping they look for somebody. And look, this could all come to this game. If DJU plays stellar, with the system against the Rams, I think they possibly keep him and let Trey try to go play somewhere else.
That's sad.
I mean, he just stares down receivers. The only thing he has is his legs. He's really good with his legs, so that's kind of like a bonus. They're like, damn, well, we can make it work with his scrambling ability.
You got that Justin Fields accuracy, though.
Exactly. Good. Yeah, bingo. Running backs, Hampton, Mitchell, and Vidal. Vidal all preseason has looked like he doesn't even want to be out there. He's looked slow. He just doesn't look interested in being out there in preseason, and I don't blame him. He kind of carried us last year. But so that could be, do they keep him or do they want Amar Johnson or Jarrett Patterson to jump on the 53? Amar Johnson looks fantastic. Mitchell's dealing with something. I don't know what it is. They're going to keep a fullback, Alec Ingold. I'm excited to see what this guy can do with this McDaniel system.
I liked him.
Yeah, I do too.
I liked him.
Old school Raider guy, Dolphin. It's been around. It looks like he's a solid ball player. Wide receivers, think they keep 6. Ladd, McConkey, Trey Harris, who I think is going to have a big season. QJ, who I think they're going to use differently than he's been used since he's been a Charger, because his game is not the X over the shoulder. It's get the ball in his hands and let him go to work. Brendan Thompson, that's going to be our rookie. They're going to keep him. KLS, maybe they keep him, and Darius Davis, maybe they keep him. Personally, I want to see one of those guys gone, probably Darius Davis. Just you can look at his work. I think he's only had 184 yards receiving wise in like 3 years.
Yeah.
I like Dale Von Campbell. He's looked explosive. Yeah, he had a drop here and there in preseason. He's massive. He's a big dude. He looks explosive. You can work with him. Tight ends, I think they only keep 3. Njoku, they brought over Chief. They got Gadsden, who's working on his blocking. Say he's getting better in blocking. Kolar, my dude, that is my glue guy. He is the guy I'm most excited about in this offense, tight end wise. Even though Njoku's one of my favorite players, I think Njoku's kind of at the tail end of his career. O-line, Slater, Coyote Awashika, Slaughter, rookie. Strange, which sucks because there was no competition for him. And then he admitted that he looked like trash. So, hey, props to him for going on a presser saying, I look like ass. You know what I mean? And I salute to him for saying that.
Right, man up.
Right. Joel, probably my favorite player. And then Pipkins.
Mine too. I hate saying that.
I think they keep Pipkins. Why they can't quit this guy, I have no clue, but they invested a lot of money in him. I just don't get it. The fan base doesn't get it. We're tired of it, but whatever. And then Travis Burke, that's another rookie. Branson Taylor, second-year player who kind of had like a mini red shirt last year just because he was coming off a injury from college. And then rookie Spomer. So, wow, I didn't write down the number of O-linemen. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 8.
You don't think Isaiah World? What's he looking like?
They already put him when they signed him. He is on like, hey, this is like a redshirt year. You're not even counting.
Okay.
They're like, yeah, he's not even on
IR or something.
Yeah, he's like IR something or other. But that leaves out Trevor Penning. That leaves out Alex Harkey, and that leaves out Logan Taylor. They're 2 6-round picks. I don't have making the 53, which sucks because I think one of them is going to get poached. One of them is a very versatile guy, and I just told you that Alex Harkey played pretty well. Sucks, but this is just what I.
Burke, like you remember he was one of my guys in my pre-draft that I wanted.
I kept calling him Memphis Burke, but it's Travis Burke from. Memphis.
It's Travis Burke from Memphis, but
yeah.
you remember he was one of my dudes that I had in my draft in our draft show.
He looks like the real deal. Now there has been some like ex-O lineman guys that said he needs to work on he's got a long ways to go. He needs to work on his footwork. Well, dude, everybody else is saying that they really like what he's showing on tape. Do I think he's going to start this year? No, but I think he can take over that swing tackle spot and then take that swing tackle spot and then boom, become a starter maybe in 2 years. You know what I mean? Yep. So whatever. D-line, I got them keeping 5. Tart, glue guy, awesome. Caldwell, who I think is going to have a big year because they're going to have him do some different stuff. Boygby, I talked about him earlier. Man, I think this is his breakout year in year 3. Barrett Rook, who I haven't paid attention. Some people say he's looked good. Some people say he's whatever. And then Dalvin Tomlinson, the vet they brought in. Now, this is where it gets interesting. T-Raw Edwards and one other guy, I think it's another Carter on the D-line, have looked fantastic in preseason and in camp. No, not Andre. It's a different one. I think it's Jameer. Don't quote me on that. It's one of them. But T-Raw Edwards, if he doesn't make the 53, I think he guaranteed gets poached by somebody. He has looked fantastic. He just looks like a guy that needs to go start somewhere or start for us. And maybe they cut Tomlinson. Maybe they say, sorry, dude. Like, we were excited about bringing you in, and maybe they keep him. I don't know, but that's just how I'm looking at it.
Jameer Carter, number 61.
Jameer, there we go.
Yeah.
And then linebackers, this is including outside linebackers as well. I've got them keeping 10, so it's outside and inside. Inside, Henley. I think he's going to have a bounce-back year. He dealt with sickness last year. He had some unfortunate stuff happen with his family. I think this is the year where he comes onto the scene a little more, becomes more of a name. And then Marlo Wax, a lot of fans love this guy. Troy Dye, he's serviceable, he's decent. Denzel Perryman, Old Man Perryman, he's still there. Is he going to play 17 games? No, not at all. Probably not. And then Phillips, who's a special teams kind of ace dude, who they're going to keep and can be serviceable as a linebacker as well. Outside linebackers, Khalil Mack, dude. Everybody's saying how great he's looking this year. He's got Wolverine blood. The dude's
that dude's insane.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Like something is off with him. I want him tested. Like something is off. Like
he just. And then Thule.
Test Khalil Mack.
Yeah, and then outside Thule, and then our first round rook Mesidor, who I'm excited about, who I think could be better than Odafe Owe we had over here last year.
Okay.
Bud Dupree, a lot of fans give him shit. We don't like him. I think he's a really good locker room guy, and he does well in run blocking. But as for pass rush, not so much. And this is what sucks, because I wanted them to keep another guy, Kennard, Tucker, or Carter. I think what they're going to do is keep Kennard, because this is how front offices work, and it sucks for us fans, is they take draft pedigree over whatever else. They're like, this is a fourth round pick. Kennard hasn't shown anything this offseason. He's looked irrelevant. The drills he runs, he looks stiff, dude. He's like a building running around, and he's got no bend. Tucker looks like he's got explosiveness, bend, but unfortunately, this last game, he was almost like a non-factor. And then Carter, that's the guy I told you. That's the guy's bouncing around the NFL. As long as he pursues the NFL, he doesn't have to go serve his military time. And he had 4 pressures. He's got a great body, so who knows? Maybe he gets stuck to the practice squad. So that's going to be interesting. We're to see what they go with that. Cornerbacks, I have them keeping 6. The Chargers have 3 solid cornerbacks. They're not great. They don't suck. They're just right there, right? They're not like the Denver's room. They're not like that. They're not anything like that. You got Dante Jackson. He's a vet. You know, he's a good guy. He's just not elite. And then you have Still and Hart. And Hart, both those guys came in together, same draft year. Tarheeb Still, kind of like your slot corner. Cam Hart's your taller outside corner. Really like them all.
We're gonna cook them.
Yeah, they're just not elite. And then this is what kind of upset a lot of fans is they didn't bring in any more vet cornerbacks this offseason. And they're banking on some of these UDFAs. I talked about them ad nauseum last season, Nico Reed and Caleb Rogers. Caleb Rogers has been a non-factor. So that sucks for him because he's got the size and speed, and he just has been a non-factor in camp and preseason. Nico Reed I have making. I think he's shown enough development as a UDFA that he's going to make this roster, along with Avery Smith, who I talked about last week or previous shows. That's a UDFA rookie out of Toledo. And then there's Dean Leonard, who fans just cannot stand because he's horrible in coverage, but he's a damn good gunner on special teams. So it's like you got to throw your special teams coach a bone once in a while, and that's him. And that leaves out Rodney Shelley, who I think is another great UDFA that we hope that we can keep on the practice squad. And then we go to safeties. Derwin James, boom. Who I think, guys, is our 5th edge, by the way, which sounds weird, but, kind of similar to what the Raiders did with last year with, is it Butler? Who's that safety that you guys had in the box last season with under Pete? Real famous.
Yeah, I know. He just got hurt too.
Anyways, they have had what's going on is they've had Derwin and Henley, who I've mentioned, the linebacker. They practice a lot. I think it's like every day they will do reps with the edge guys. They're running edge drills. They're doing stuff like that. I think Derwin's he's the box guy. He's gonna play everywhere. He just doesn't have the elite speed to be a free safety.
Coverage guy. Yeah,
right,
coverage
right.
guy. Yeah.
So
Jamal Adams.
yes, there you go. Thank you. Why did I said Butler? What the hell?
I couldn't. I drew a brain fart too.
Another one, Elijah Molden. He's looked good. He needs to have a bounce back. He was kind of banged up these last year. R.J. Mickens, young guy going in year 2, stud, dude. I'm a big fan of this cat. Genesis Smith, our rookie, ball hawk kind of guy, but his tackling stuff is showing up a little bit in camp, and we'll see. And then this is what gets tough for me. No, I'm not going to want to cut Tony Jefferson, a.k.a. Unk, as Chargers fans call him.
Well, I mean, 12 years safety.
Right, yeah.
They should call him Grandpa.
But this leaves out Kendall Williamson, a guy that I am super high on, and I want to make this team as a depth piece and as a special teams guy. So we'll see how accurate I am. I don't know. And then special teams, you got Dicker, J.K. Scott, and
My
Josh
favorite
Harris.
name.
And by the
My
way,
favorite name.
in the last game, J.K. Scott, guys, he was punting wonderfully because, believe me, there was plenty of punts because of how absolute ass the offense was. Just nailing them. Dude made the craziest business decision I've ever seen a player make. Literally, the guy ran it back. Essentially, he ran it back for a touchdown. J.K. Scott literally just did one of these things, like didn't even bother, alligator arms, didn't bother to touch him, and just did a little. He might as well have had a tutu on, like the ballerina.
Like a revolving door.
He just was, oh, okay, see ya. Like, didn't even attempt to lay down, tackle, nothing. And, like, I know he got ripped a new one from everybody. They're like, WTF, you son of a, if this was like a real game, I get you don't want to hurt your punters.
You know what I do if I'm the Chargers? Just to show him that we saw the BS that he pulled. This week here, I would have brought in a dude to come in to compete for his job just to prove a point.
Yep.
Even if you have no intention of having that guy replace him, to basically say, you pull that crap, you're getting a dude coming in to compete with you, you better something.
Richie,
do something.
I agree, dude. Also, Dicker has mixed. He's missing extra points. Each preseason game, he's missed extra points. By the way, he's the most accurate kicker in NFL history per snap wise, and coming into preseason like dude, focus Forrest, because we're gonna those kicks. Forrest. Those points matter, but they didn't bring in competition for kicker.
Dicker is my favorite name in all of the NFL.
Dicker the kicker. So, but out of all the people they brought in competition for, it was for our long snapper, which didn't make any sense to me. But
the Broncos did the same thing, by the way.
Yeah, I'm like, what do we do? Is this for practice? I don't know. But that's my 53. I have a feeling because with our new GM around this time, especially with cuts going into the first week, he always brings in somebody else. So whatever we think is a 53 has never been the case these last 2 years. And what really scares me is he gonna pull some tomfoolery with Tony Jefferson, which really pissed him off last season because he balled out. They cut him and then they bring him back. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things like, we're going to cut you, put you on the practice squad, bring you back, and renegotiate your thing. And I'm like, just don't do that anymore. Figure it out. But also, by the way, we didn't talk about it. No more Pro Bowls, which I thought was kind of fantastic because they turned the Pro Bowl into a joke and whatever. But when they left it up to fan voting, it just turned into a joke. But whatever.
Well, in
they
my
better
opinion,
add another damn game on the season. Then
that's what I posted on X today. I don't know if you guys saw my.
I was against the 18 games, but if you're taking away the Pro Bowl, even though it was kind of silly but it was still something to watch. It's still something to watch.
Well, the number one market for the NFL is still the United States of America, and it's not even close. And so, at the end of the day, I still believe that what they're trying to do with the season is they're trying to find a way of crunching the preseason down. They're trying to find a way of removing an extra game like the Pro Bowl from the season, right? And then they're trying to extend the season out to 18 games add another bye week, in my opinion, into the season, and then have the Super Bowl played on President's Day.
Probably. I mean, yeah.
I think they're trying to get rid of the preseason altogether and just have open scrimmages.
I don't know if they could actually do that because preseason games have made so many guys' careers.
Yeah, and it makes people money.
And it makes money because you can sell tickets to those games and stuff. So there's a fine balance between cutting them and having them. But I truly believe that the players are pushing for one less preseason game, but they don't want the preseason to go away altogether. And then the owners are saying the Pro Bowl is just an expense and we want it gone. So I think this is the merger of those two minds, and then it's going to be an 18-game season, President's Day, Super Bowl.
They're going to have to extend the rosters or something, practice squad, something.
Yeah.
Because another game, I mean. Whew.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think we're already seeing the start of that anyways with the practice squad call-ups and stuff. So they're starting to see kind of what that looks like and what that expanded or extended roster could look like. And I think that the players will negotiate for more practice squad call-ups or a larger practice squad.
Yep.
Something to make up for the preseason.
It's 16 with an international. It's 17. So
Yep.
Let's just make it an even 20 or something. I don't know.
Either way, each game that the NFL plays is some obscene dollar figure because you got to remember there's betting involved now as well, and TV money, etc. So this really does make things rather unique for the NFL. I think fans don't fully appreciate just how big of a business this actually is. It's just insane. The NFL is the largest sporting league in the world from a dollars and cents perspective, and they literally currently right now play a total of 17 games.
17 meaningful games.
No, they're all meaningful, but they literally play 17 games in their regular season. Right. Let that sink in.
Compared to
baseball
hockey and baseball,
hockey. It's insane. Yeah, it's insane. So either way, the point is I just don't think we fully understand and truly appreciate just how unique football actually is and just how much money on a per game basis each of these games are worth to the NFL teams and owners.
Yeah, but it's worth more for these NFL owners to not lose players in these preseason games.
Correct.
There's been so many injuries,
Dude.
So there's a lot of owners that are
losing Slater for us 2 years ago,
they just want to be done with the preseason completely.
The Oddish this year, my God, I'd hate to be in that ownership room and office.
Right?
Yeah. So
114 plus $30 million. I mean, they're not all given up front, but you're you just watch your money just go down a drain. You're like,
they got so much money they can just,
Yeah.
So
not like this guy's team though. That's money. That's ridiculous amount of
that's the Walmart ownership that the Broncos have. I will totally admit is at a different level than most teams.
Dude.
It's like they can absorb costs that other teams just couldn't imagine doing.
I swear they got the Broncos on a deal too. I think they got him for was it 5, 6? It was just, I know this because they put out a thing. The Padres just got sold for $3.9 billion, and I saw they put up some other teams, and the Broncos were just barely above them, and I'm like, Walmart.
How?
Yeah, how did you pull that?
Yeah. Well, the Broncos were sold at a really opportune time, and I think that the ownership group there realized that they were getting an absolute smoking deal compared to other teams. They were taking over a winning franchise that has a better record, wins and losses, and it's not even close. They have a fan base that is incredible. They have sold out stadiums. All the different things are coming and aligning in a row.
Broncos country really they sell out.
It is what it is, and I think they knew they were getting an absolute.
Reminds me of the Raiders when they were in Oakland.
Yes,
the Raiders would, no matter what, just
it was sold out.
It would black that place out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. So that'll do it for
Because
today.
you could afford to go.
Yes, this is also true.
Good. Yeah.
Yes.
Solid point.
Yes. So next week we're going to have what our actual 53-man roster to start the season is going to be. I think it'd be kind of cool to compare what we predicted versus what's actual and kind of do a little bit of a delta. I think that'd be kind of a neat thing for the audience here.
Yeah.
And then we'll show what our roster is looking like. Keep in mind, guys, that as of our show here on Wednesday, teams will continue to ebb and flow the roster, like literally probably as we're live. So we can only do as good of a job as we can with what's there. At the end of the day, each and every team and each and every GM is trying to just nudge out the roster just ever so slightly as time goes on, as we approach the season. And it's going to be super, super interesting to see what each of our teams end up doing and where we land. So we got our last preseason game coming up.
Who's everybody playing real quick?
You got the 49ers.
Vikings, 49ers. Okay, Rams. All right.
The battle of the brothers on offense, coaching.
Yeah. And just an interesting plot line just before we completely sign off the show. The Vikings are Sean Payton's former team that he came George Payton's former team, rather, where he came from in his front office career. He was the second in command in the GM side and then moved over to the Broncos. And I have to give that guy credit. Since day one, he has seemed to be that stabilizing force that you're looking for in that front office for the Denver Broncos, and has been able to keep the team kind of within that proper vision. Most teams lack that, and I think the Broncos have shown that they have that maturity in the room. You know what I mean? Like the adult in the room, as they say.
Adult team.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Making adult decisions. He's done some good work. And by the way, I give George Payton a little bit of leeway when it comes to the Russell Wilson decision. I don't believe that was necessarily all his doing. I think that was some outside influence, as it were, that he didn't have as much of a choice with. And if you look at every decision thereafter, they seem to have a different flair to it, which makes me think that wasn't necessarily a him thing. So it is what it is. But ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for the show. We will see you next week, where we're going to go into the 53-man roster and what they actually are. We'll talk about our preseason game number 3, and probably a couple dudes that we're going to be disappointed or not on the 53-man roster that probably showed some things in that third game that were just like, I don't understand. And look, I got a bunch of them that have gone through the Broncos, and they've gone on to do some amazing things with other teams. I'm sure you guys all have similar guys and similar stories, but you can't keep everybody. And frankly, sometimes your front office does make mistakes, even though they will never admit it.
Right.
But ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for the show tonight. Thank you all for joining the Wild Wild West podcast. We'll see you next week, where the West Side's the best side. Peace.